the sins. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Ah, yes, it will. It's been too hard living, but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Ah, yes, it will. I go to the movie and I go downtown. Somebody keep a telling me don't hang around. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. And I go to my brother. I say, brother, help me please. But it winds up knocking me back down on my knees. Whoa, there's been times that I thought I couldn't last for long, but now I think I'm able to carry on. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will.
One, two, 1, 2, 3. Me and all my friends, we're all misunderstood. They say we stand for nothing and there's no way we ever could. Now we see everything that's going wrong with the world and those who lead it. We just feel like we don't have the means to rise above and beat it. So we keep waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting on the world to change. It's hard to beat the system when we're standing at a distance. So we keep waiting on the world to change. Now if we had the power to bring our neighbors home from war, they would have never missed a Christmas, no more ribbons on their door. And when you trust your television, what you get is what you got. 'Cause when the only information, oh, they can bend it all they want. That's why we're waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting on the world to change. It's not that we don't care, we just know that the fight ain't fair. So we keep on waiting on the world to change. man is gonna rule the population. So we keep on waiting, waiting on the world to change. I know we keep on waiting, waiting on the world to change. We keep on waiting, waiting on the world to change. 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 If it keeps on raining, levee's gonna break. If it keeps on raining, levee's gonna break. And the water gonna come in and we'll have no place to stay. Well, all last night I sat on the levee and moaned. Well, all last night I sat on the levee and moaned. Thinking about my baby and my happy home. If it keeps on raining, levee's gonna break. If it keeps on raining, levee's gonna break. And all these people have no place to stay. Now look here, mama, what am I to do? Now look here, mama, what am I to do? I ain't got nobody to tell my troubles to. I worked on the levee, mama, both night and day. I worked on the levee, mama, both night and day. I ain't got nobody to keep the water away. Oh, crime won't help you, praying won't do you no good. Oh, crime won't help you, praying won't do you no good. Whenever levee breaks, mama, you gotta lose. I worked on the levee, mama, both night and day. I worked on the levee, mama, both night and day. I worked so hard to keep the water away. Well, I had a woman, she wouldn't do for me. Yeah, I had a woman, she wouldn't do for me. Well, I'm going back to my used to be. Oh, mean old levee taught me to weep and moan. It's a mean old levee taught me to weep and moan. Told me to leave my baby and my happy home.
Good morning and welcome back, Ingrid. Every Sunday when we get together, we ring the bell 3 times. The first time, we ring the bell to call us back into covenant. We are on the unceded land of the Muwekma tribe of the Ohlone people. They were displaced during Western occupation. They were colonized and their land was taken. Now they seek to regain their land as well as pass on their heritage and customs and culture to their descendants. Everything that we do to restore their rights and equality and sovereignty is working our way back into covenant. The second bell calls us into relationship with ourselves and one another to recognize any unbroken promises or unhealed hurt or lingering scars where being right was more important than being in right relationship. We intentionally gather to invite an ever-widening circle of compassion, commitment, and solidarity until we are all beloved. The third bell calls us into relationship with our children and our children's children out to the seventh generation, reminding us that what we do now or what we fail to do will be felt by those who come after us. And today we have an extra treat, a fourth bell, which announces the arrival of our sabbatical minister, Jim McKinley.
It's great to be here. Now I'll do the call to worship, which is, it's actually number 442. It's in your hymnal if you had one. And that was before COVID. And it's by Richard S. Gilbert. We bid you welcome who come with weary spirit seeking rest, who come with troubles that are too much with you, who come hurt and afraid. We bid you welcome who come with hope in your heart, who come with anticipation in your step, who come proud and joyous. We bid you welcome who are seekers of a new faith, who come to probe and explore, who come to learn. We bid you welcome, and I heard the name of somebody who enters this hall as a homecoming, who have found here room for your spirit, who find in this people a family. Whoever you are, whatever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey, we bid you welcome. Please join me in this responsive chalice lighting written by Edwin Muir. I will read the bold and type, and you'll respond with the italicized type. You got it? Friend, I have lost the way.
The way leads on.
Is there another way?
The way is on.
I must retrace the track.
It's lost and gone.
Back, I must travel back.
None goes there.
Then I'll make here my place.
The road leads on.
Stand still and set my face.
The road leads on.
Stay here, forever stay.
None stays here. None.
I cannot find the way.
The way leads on.
Oh, places I have passed.
That journey is done.
And what will come at last?
The road leads on.
Good morning, friends. Welcome to Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Jay Steele. My pronouns are he and his, and I'm a member of the board. We are so glad you joined us this morning. I'm going to start out by highlighting some current announcements. Today, we will not have our usual breakout rooms. The Committee on Ministry will have a congregational conversation to help launch our time of sabbatical. They will share what we learned from responses to our leadership survey, and we will get to ask questions of Reverend Greg and Reverend Jim. Please stay and join us. First date, October 28th at 7 o'clock here in Cole Hall. there will be a free film screening and a discussion of a film, What I Wish My Parents Knew, that addresses youth suicide and mental health. To RSVP for childcare, contact dre@mpuuc.org. There will be a special congregational meeting on October 29th. That's 2 weeks from now, after the normal service. The Board of Directors of Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation hereby calls a meeting of the congregation to be held after service on October 29th. The congregation will vote on whether to publicly support the statement. We endorse the overall efforts of the California Reparations Task Force to study reparations for African Americans. Voting will be done in person and on Zoom. Absentee ballots are available by request at president@mpuuc.org or secretary@mpuuc.org. Next exciting announcement. The Black and White auction is November 18th from 7 to 9 p.m. on Zoom. So this will be totally online. This is our annual fundraiser. Buy your tickets now, and please sign up for your auction item contribution. That is, if you want to contribute an auction item. See Week on the Peak or the MPUUC website. There is still time to be a fudge judge or a fudge maker. Email Valerie Stewart. One more thing, we are selling t-shirts for MPUUC over there on the table for $12 each. If you're interested, please see me. Lastly, there's the Diverse and Revolutionary Unitarian Universalist Multicultural Ministries, that's DRUM, is requesting that our Mission Peak UU members help them by completing a survey of ethnicity, gender identity, and ability diversity within our UU congregations. The survey is brief, anonymous, and will be sent to you by Sandra through email. Please help us highlight and document our diversity. And please silence your electronic devices. Unitarian Universalism is a radically inclusive, non-doctrinal, non-dogmatic, open-minded, and open-hearted faith. We are people who are all coming at truth from different paths. We gather together across different identities, experiences, and beliefs to affirm and promote the inherent worth of every person. Together, we see our job is to love the hate out of this world, heal the hurt in ourselves and one another, and to be the change we'd like to see more in this world. If you're a guest for the first time, we welcome you. Here's a bit of information on our hybrid services. We use chat and Zoom. Hello, Zoom folks. And also, we have a book by the welcome table to share joys and concerns, personal milestones of importance, which will be read aloud in the service. We also have social hour after the service, although that might be cut a little short today, where we get to visit with one another or in not breakout rooms, on the patio. The worship host will give you more information about this immediately after the service. Someone from our membership team, probably Annette, will put a link to our weekly newsletter so you can see all the events coming up. We encourage you to join anything that speaks to you. We also put our welcome email, welcome@mpuuc.org, to request a newsletter or any information to be sent to you. If you're here in person, our welcome table is right over there with Annette, where you can sign up to receive a newsletter, ask any questions you may have. We are so glad to be together today. Lastly, but not leastly, let's ask everybody in Zoomlandia and everybody in Cole Hall to wave to one another and feel the joy of being one large, beloved community. Welcome and thank you to our members and friends near and far.
Please rise as you are willing and able as we are treated to another day with Peak Rocks, singing our opening hymn.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I fly away, oh glory, I fly away. When I die, hallelujah.
What the Road Said, written by Cleo Wade, illustrated by Lucy de Moyencourt. Have you ever wanted to go in a different direction? Have you ever wondered if there was something more, something out there, something just different? I did too. Then one day I was walking my usual way home when, out of nowhere, for no reason at all, almost as if it were magic, a road appeared. I could not believe my eyes, so I walked over to it and I said to the road, "Where do you lead?" The road said, "Be a leader and find out." "How do I start?" I asked. The road smiled and said, "You have already started." "Well, what happens when I get there?" "We have just begun," said the road. "Don't skip straight to the ending. Enjoy the beginning and the middle too." "Which way do I go?" "That is your choice to make," said the road. "But what if I go the wrong way?" The road curved a little, almost as if it was giving me a hug, and said, "Do not worry. Sometimes we go the wrong way on our way to the right way." "What if I get scared?" "That is okay," said the road. "You are brave." "But what does it mean to be brave?" The road guided me through a very gloomy forest. Even though I was frightened, I trusted the road. And as I took one step and then another step, after that, the road gently whispered, "Being brave is when you are afraid of doing something, but you do it anyway. Do not let what scares you keep you from continuing on your path." "Will I always move forward?" "Not always," said the road. "Why not?" "Because sometimes you will stumble backward, and sometimes you will stand still." "What if I fall?" "Everyone falls at some point," said the road, "but I will always be there when you land." "What if I get lost?" "There may be some days that feel long and dark," said the road, "but I promise that no matter what, I will give you the evening stars and the morning sun to light your way." "What if I grow weary or get hurt?" "I will give you trees of all shapes and sizes to shelter you when you need to rest and heal," said the road. "What if I get lonely?" "You are never alone," said the road. "What if I change?" "Come with me," said the road. And as I moved forward, the road introduced me to a caterpillar and a family of seeds. We did not stay long. The road began taking me on a journey through all the seasons. I watched summer turn to fall and fall turn to winter, and as spring was upon us, I realized we had gone in one big, beautiful circle. I looked down and found I was standing in front of the caterpillar and the seeds once more. Only the caterpillar was no longer a caterpillar, and the seeds had turned to flowers of every color, swaying in the sun. The road then raised me up and said, "All things grow and change. That is the magic of being alive. You too will find your wings. You too will bloom. No living thing is meant to stay the same." What if I need help on my journey? Ask your fellow travelers along the way. What if they are mean to me? Lead them to kindness, said the road. How? By being kind. What if they want to fight? Lead them to peace, said the road. But how do I lead them to peace? By listening to their stories, telling them yours, and reminding them that you are all on this journey together. What if the world around us is filled with hate? Lead it to love. How? By sharing the power of your love with it, said the road. What if something unexpected happens? Keep going. What if there are mountains that feel too tall to climb? What if there are rivers that feel too wide to cross? What if I get my heart broken? What if I feel stuck? What if giving up is just easier? Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going, said the road. What if I can't do it? You can, said the road. How do you know? Because you have come this far, said the road. I said to the road, where do you lead? And the road said, be a leader and find out. The end.
We take up a collection on Sundays for the simple reason that our purpose in gathering is for more than ourselves. We want to make sure that the ministries that we need, the ones that infuse worth and dignity into our children, our youth, our programs of learning and leadership, and our ministries of anti-oppression and our work in the larger world are in place to meet the needs of others. During this slide, we hope you will make a contribution toward these worthy causes by mailing your check to Mission Peak UU Congregation at the address on the screen. You can also use the bill pay option in your online banking or drop your check into the Mission Peak mail slot or pay online with a credit or debit card. Thank you for supporting and sustaining the efforts of our members, our friends, and staff. Your contributions make loving, learning, and leadership more possible. Thank you.
Every week we come together because we need one another. We need to see one another's face in order to recognize what it means to be blessed. We are blessed with one another's stories, stories of joy, but stories of hardship and concern. If you have a joy or concern that you would like to have shared aloud in this space, and you are with us online, we invite you to type it into the chat. If you are with us in person, please write it into the book. If you would like to drop a silent stone while the music plays, we invite you to come forward and do that. And if you have a joy or concern that is too personal to share aloud, we invite you to gather up all of those joys and concerns and take them to Reverend Jim, who will still be here when I leave.
You say the price of my love's not a price that you're willing to pay. You cry in your tea, which you hurl in the sea when you see me go by. Why so sad? Remember we made an arrangement when you went away. Now you're making me mad. Remember, despite our estrangement, I'm your man. You'll be back, soon you'll see. You'll remember you belong to me. You'll be back, time will tell. You'll remember that I served you well. Oceans rise, empires fall. We have seen each other through it all. And when push comes to shove, I will send a fully armed battalion to remind you of my love. Da 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 you say our love is draining and you can't go on. You'll be the one complaining when I am gone. And no, don't change the subject, 'cause you're my favorite subject. My sweet, submissive subject, my loyal, royal subject, whatever.
Oops.
And ever, and ever, and ever, you'll be back like before. I will fight the fight and win the war. For your love, for your praise, and I'll love you till my dying days. When you're gone, I'll go mad. So don't throw away this thing we had, 'cause when push comes to shove, I will kill your friends and family to remind you of my love. Da 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 da. Everybody, da 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 da
These are the joys and concerns that are alive in the hearts of this community. And my wish to all of you, that you know how much I love you, and that you know that you are in very good hands with Jim, who has to face me in case anything goes wrong when I get back. For all of these joys expressed and those still too tender to escape the bounds of our heart, we vow to keep our minds, our hearts, our arms, and our doors open. Please join with me in the spirit of this reading. The reading this morning is a personal one for me. It was written by a dear friend of mine. His name is Don Brunkwell, and it is called The Church of the Found and Lost. We are all members here who have wandered in off the street on a clear, cold night, who have tried to believe in a God, any God, who have heard a song we long to hear again, who have wakened not knowing where we are, who have wept not knowing who we are, who have turned away from a warm hand in fear, who have stood stunned in silence alone, who have called a name now far, far gone, who have dared to love and choose to love again. We are all members here who have heard a song we long to hear again, who have dared to love and choose to love again. Don Brunkwell, who wrote this, is a dear friend of mine, someone who I served with for 5 years on the Ministerial Fellowship Committee. He was one of the psychologists on our team. He's incredibly smart, really principled, and has an enormous heart. Don is a member of Unity Unitarian, one of our largest churches up in Minneapolis, and he is a lifetime UU. He is also someone who was recently diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And although he wrote this before his diagnosis, I love that it asks us and reminds him to choose love and to re-choose it, especially when our greatest trials surround us and fear is rushing in toward us. A dozen times or more in my life, I have found myself in church overwhelmed by love and the deep sense of connection that comes every once in a while from things that we do together. I have felt gratitude for the people next to me and the shared purpose that we have together. Sometimes it was the music that brought it on, or maybe just hearing the right reading, or that little bit of a sermon that I felt was meant especially for me. Sometimes it was just the empty silence that helped me notice how lucky I am, especially compared to other people or other places or other periods in my life. But a dozen times or more, plus one, are the number of times the profundity and sacredness of the moment receded, and ordinariness rushed in to claim its usual place. When habit and routine took their usual seats at the helm. If you work in a church, or if you have a key leadership position in a church, you are not unfamiliar with such a changing of the guard from sacred to mundane. You will notice that special sacred feeling we occasionally experience will give way to the heaviness of responsibilities. And of course, all the responsibilities we undertook, we did so out of love and gratitude. But sometimes responsibilities pile up, and layers of habit and routine, not just our own, get laid all around us, such that we find ourselves praying to the God of protection rather than the God of gratitude. Here on the eve of a 3-month leave, I want to talk about what sabbatical means to me, what I am going to do, and why. But I also want to explore what sabbatical means to you. Let me start by saying how grateful I am that being here in this community with you has helped me grow in love and appreciation. Not just for what we do together, but how it reminds me to choose love again and again and again when we're apart with all of the other people in my life. You help me feel fully human, which is to say, not less than human, as I know some people in the world are made to feel when they are subjects of hate or bias, nor more than human, which is how some people veer toward in their lust for godlike power over others. But one of the things about being human is that we love our routines. People who come together, who learn to care for each other, will adjust to each other. We will fall into patterns in order to accommodate and please one another. We will find out how to help, how to offer comfort, how to meet needs. And after a while, those patterns can become expectations. And expectations, consistently met, can become a groove. But left untended, any groove can also become a rut. Spend time in a rut reflecting on how you got there, and it's likely you'll remember you weren't the only one with a shovel when the digging started. But the camaraderie and the playfulness and the creative exchange that was present early on got out while it was still a groove, and you kept digging. There is a wise quote by the sage philosopher Anonymous that says, "The only difference between a rut and a grave is the depth of the hole and the amount of time that you plan to be in it." Staying in a rut long enough, it's easy to forget that you chose the very place that you're in. And you chose the place you're in because of love. Stay in any rut long enough, and the voices of monotony and unshifting weight upon you will have you crying out for escape, drowning out those chorus of voices that constantly sing about love and that remind you of the many times you vowed to choose love again and again and again with these very people. Some of you know my plans for sabbatical include traveling to Israel, where war was recently declared. Just for the record, I want you to know that I planned the trip before war was declared. It wasn't the brochures of war that drew me in. I wanted to go because I am Jewish by heritage. And from studying my ancestry, I have a sense of what living for generations in a rut does to the human psyche and the human heart. I also know the ways it can feel like when you feel like the only way to climb out of that rut is to force someone else into it to take your place. I believe that Israelis and Palestinians both know that feeling. At the same time, I believe that both Israelis and Palestinians are human beings, which means that they are both part of that experience that involves a choice to love and a promise to choose love over and over again. For the record, the company I signed up to go with on this tour to Israel is still going. And at this point, I still plan to go with them. I don't have any grandiose savior complex that leads me to think that I can bring peace to a war zone. I wonder, like the person on the road in the story this morning, what if they're mean? What if they're just filled with hate, then teach them to be kind and lead them to love. And that's about all we can do. I need you to know that I am wanting to go because I really need to hear their stories, both their stories historically and their stories present day, of what it feels like to live in a rut, what it means to see a way out, to choose love without forcing someone else to take on your pain. In short, I need to visit someone else's rut in order to truly understand the dimensions of my own. In the survey on leadership, the Committee on Ministry, who is acting as the sabbatical committee in my absence, asked a number of questions relevant to the sabbatical. Com reviewed the responses, and Paul Clifford will offer a very cogent summary in the conversation that we have together after the service. But there is one response that I want to lift up here, a response that left me a little worried. When asked if there were any concerns about the sabbatical, several respondents said something akin to, "No concerns, really. It's only 3 months. We'll survive." To be completely honest, my heart sank when I read this because whereas I think it may be true that you will survive, I think survival is a very low bar. I want you to know that my goal for sabbatical is to have experiences that stretch me, that remind me why I love you, why I love this place, why I love ministry, and why I love what we do together. I want to remember that outside the routines and habits that bind me to you, why I would choose to love you again and again. So I want to charge you to do something of the same thing. To climb around in one another's ruts, to recognize the ways that we helped dig these together, and look for ways that they can become a network rather than a dead end of individual obligations. Because honestly, the last thing I want at the end of this sabbatical is to return home to a big party with a newfound love and excitement in my heart, only to be shown back to the same familiar rut that I knew and handed a gift of a brand new shovel. I love you. I believe in you. I believe in your ability to believe in one another. I will take you with me on my journey, and I know that you will be in good hands with Reverend Jim.
I left my happy home to see what I could find out. I left my folk and friends with the aim to clear my mind out. Well, I hit the rowdy road, and many kinds I met there. Many stories told me on the way to get there. So on and on I go, the seconds tick the time out. So much left to know, and I'm on the road to find out. Ooh. In the end I'll know that on the way I wander. Through descending snow and through the frost and thunder. Well, I listen to the wind come out, telling me I have to hurry. Listen to the robin song, saying not to worry. Ooh. So on and on I go, the seconds tick the time out. So much left to know, and I'm on the road to find out. Find myself alone, hoping someone would miss me. Thinking about my home, and the last woman to kiss me, kiss me. Well, sometimes you have to moan when nothing seems to suit you. But nevertheless, you know you're locked towards the future. Ooh. So off and on you go, the seconds tick the time out. There's so much left to know, and I'm on the way to find out. Ooh. I found my head one day, and I wasn't even trying. Here I have to say, 'cause there is no use in lying, lying. Yes, the answer lies within, so why not take a look now? Kick out the devil's sin, or pick up a good book now. Ooh. Yes, the answer lies within, so why not take a look now? Kick out the devil's sin, or pick up a good book now. Ooh. Yes, the answer lies within, so why not take a look now? Kick out the devil's sin, or pick up a good book now. Ooh.
How many of you have ever built those stone cairns on a hike or on the beach? Yeah, it's really fun. And I also have to add, no, I won't say that about what Greg was saying. He and I didn't coordinate what we're going to write. I mean, in terms of telling each other what it was. But it's amazing the grace that works around these kinds of things and pulls us together. My reading is, or reflection, is The Green Growing Edge by Howard Thurman. And it's personal too, because I've had it on my bulletin board. I think I brought it with me. Yeah, just the realness. I've had it pinned to my bulletin board for months, and so I copied it down for you. Howard Thurman. It's called The Green Growing Edge. And you can see why I had it on my board by the first line. It begins, "The hard thing when you get older is to keep your horizons open. The first part of life, everything is in front of you, all your potential and promise. But over the years, you make decisions. You carve yourself into a given shape. Then the challenge is to keep discovering the green growing edge." Then he adds, there is a quiet courage that comes from an inward spring of confidence in the meaning and significance of life. Such courage is an underground river flowing far beneath the shifting events of one's experience, keeping alive 1,000 little springs of action. The challenge is to keep discovering the green growing edge. I'm so glad and excited to be here with you this morning. And for those of you online, sitting here looking out, I guess they're date palms, and it's just a gorgeous view while all of this is going on. It's really special to have that, particularly after being in the traffic and, in the space. It's been quite a morning just sitting here with that, hearing all that's being shared. Because we get to meet each other and then spend 3 months in some form of each other's company. It's a joy to be here. And so I'd like to start by sharing some of my thoughts about how me being here came to be. There's the obvious point that the Committee on Ministry, in looking for a sabbatical minister, wanted somebody who would do okay, but would also make it so the congregation would be very glad to welcome Greg back. Or at least that's what Greg told me. So, check. We got that covered. No problem. But to be honest, it did take a little more than that to bring me out of retirement. So this morning will be a bit of an orientation session for us, a little about who I am and where I'm coming from, and why what we are doing is important to me. So first, I've come to understand Unitarian Universalism as a path. We've had a lot about the roads and paths, but as a path for living inspired, inclusive lives of meaning and in love, both as an orientation and a path for living life religiously. A spiritual or life compass, really, that's proven to be useful and important to me and how I live. And I'll spend the next 2 reflections sharing some of those understandings. This morning, I'll share a few things about my religious journey and the paths that have brought me to where I am now. Standing in front of you, hoping that we might be beginning an important conversation together, hoping that there is something that might be helpful for you and what I think of as our spiritual orienteering. In my childhood, my church connection was the Babson Park Community Church, a liberal Christian church in a small town in Central Florida. When I was 30, I was married in that church. And I think that tells you more about my culture, history, and traditions, and maybe something about my liberal leanings, than it does about the religious understandings and orientations that guide my life now. Other landscapes you should know about are that I spent much of my childhood exploring the outdoors, To this day, my brothers think of me as a naturalist. Words you would recognize from my story include science, ecology, Central America, snakes, and butterflies. I was all but dissertation in the PhD program in ecology and evolutionary biology at the University of Utah. I have scientific understandings that connect from the Big Bang through the evolution of human behavior. I took my master's and went to work in conservation biology with the Nature Conservancy as Director of Protection Planning and Stewardship of Florida. The next landmark in my journey that is really central to my religious sensibility was an event that opened me to a sense of something more and the challenge of mystery beyond my knowing. If you remember back, those of you who were alive then, but I was in Washington, D.C. and Washington National Airport in the middle of the snowstorm, which caused Air Florida Flight 90 to crash into the Potomac River. They were the gate next to mine. I was going to Orlando, and I was in conversation with with several of those people as we waited for a delayed flight. People greeted me when I came home, as if I had come back from the dead. About 3 days later, as I sat with my golden retriever, Gus, overlooking Lake Virginia and Winter Park having my lunch, I was overcome by a feeling that something was very different. I was aware of every leaf on the tree, every ripple on the lake. It was a sense of oneness that changed everything for me. It didn't stay around forever, but it changed everything without changing anything but my awareness. It was an enlightenment moment, an aha experience that became both a touchstone and then a koan. My next landmark was at 35 when my wife left suddenly, and that opened me to the world or emotional landscape of life, love, and tears. Later, I explored or looked into new spiritual lands of intuition, energy, guided meditations, a few New Age speculations. And in doing that, I soon realized that the imagination that is open to a sense of something more needs a community of discernment to help in determining what is good and real. It more than needs such community, it requires it. And that brought me to a Unitarian Universalist congregation as such community. I ended up at Harvard Divinity School, kind of the national outdoor leadership school for spiritual orienteering, as it were. And after graduation, I took a side trip back into conservation biology for a few years. And then I settled in as a UU minister. Buddhism was my spiritual practice of choice, but over the years I've come to understand and develop my understanding of Unitarian Universalism as its own path and practice and way as well. One that appeals to my Western roots and my innate connection to American history and tradition. My insights from this learning and experience seem very simple and clear to me now, and perhaps almost too simple for all the work and intentionality that have gone into this journey. But I think that is how insight works, and my hope is that I can share some of that sense with you. A disclaimer here. I once said, after telling some of my story, if it turns out that I'm not the minister of your dreams, perhaps that is partly because, as you can see, for a large part of my life, I never really dreamed of being a minister. I should add that I was a full-time minister for 25 years. I came to Hendersonville, North Carolina, almost 26 years ago now. I was married then, and my daughter Hannah was about to turn 3. And we were looking for a town to be at home in, and we found it there. Hannah's mom was from neighboring Asheville, her parents from Western North Carolina. And then my first priority was always to live where Hannah lived while she was growing up. So I never moved. And then I retired 4 years ago after 22 years serving as the first full-time minister of the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Hendersonville. I stayed put. And then in those years, I learned to enjoy being retired. To paraphrase part of what I read from Howard Thurman in our reflection, I was settling into a given shape, and I liked it, or at least so I thought. But I had retired the summer before COVID arrived and changed our lives so much. And that experience has shaped me in ways I did not really recognize or fully understand. And then it was time to grow beyond it, if I could. Time to challenge and discover my new green growing edge. I feel that happening in coming out here, and I'm already so grateful to you for creating and preparing this opportunity so well. My understanding of professional ministry is pre-COVID, or was till I got here. And there are ways that I was not prepared. I'm like an athlete coming out of retirement, only to find how much the game has changed, and I don't have a three-point shot. It's more technologically dependent, administratively complex, and personally remote than I knew. And then I think back to our reflection, a green growing edge. It's supported by the trunk and leaves and roots of the whole organism. And I've got that. We've each got that. We've got that. Thurman goes on to remind us that we have a quiet courage that comes from an inward spring of confidence in the meaning and significance of life, of our life, and our lives together. When I read about Mission Peak Unitarian Universalist Congregation on your website, the fact that Mission Peak emerged out of a play group stood out to me. A play group that sensed and wanted something more community, more spirituality, more connections, more purpose and meaning. They wanted a larger orientation. You then made those wishes real. You grew into a congregation, and then you took on all that entails. Play and action, joy and hope, those themes are integral to your history. They are in your trunk and roots. In your history, too, are glimpses of hard work and concern, and even, perhaps, struggles to survive. So much has changed and happened since 1992, and yet so much of what the playgroup yearned for remains the same. I wonder if this sabbatical might be a good point of inflection in your congregational experience, to renew those energies, to pause and reflect on questions like why we gather and what forms of being together work in our busy lives now. What do we each have and want to offer? What are our congregational gifts? What is our true Mission Peak you-ness? In my notes I wrote, how might you uncouple the fears associated with survival, the business of running a small not-for-profit and keeping it going? How might you uncouple the fears associated with survival from the things you want and need to do together in order to thrive and flourish? How might this wonderfully important endeavor of yours, be even more connecting, meaningful, and I would add fun in today's world? Make no mistake about the importance of your successful endeavor to hold this space and embrace of Unitarian Universalism and congregational life, keeping it open and alive in the world. There is no other place. You first gathered as a play group, seeking a broader, deeper orientation. You grew from those beginnings. A play group, organic hope and joy are among the touchstones in the pocket of your beloved Mission Peak UU coat. And now as you reach into that coat pocket, know that there is another touchstone, one of quiet courage that comes from an inward spring of confidence in the meaning and significance of what you do. You've got this. We've got this. And the challenge is to keep discovering our green growing edges. Thank you for welcoming me into your beloved as you say, MPUU congregation, and trusting and sharing with me. And thank you, Reverend Greg, for all you did to prepare this opportunity for us and us for it. Enjoy your time and travels. Be safe, held by all the gratitude, appreciation, respect, and love that goes with you. Let it lighten your luggage. We will miss you. And I'm going to do something. When Greg and Lucy got married, I gave them touchstones in the ceremony, and Greg sort of said, wait, we have to carry rocks around with us? But I'm going to give him this touchstone, if you want me to, from you, for him to carry in his pocket on his trip, so that the energy and the moments and you will be with him, but also he will be infusing this to bring it back and put it in the bowl. What do you think? So great. Here we go. Here we grow together. Thank you. Thank you.
And give each other rocks. It's what we do. We had a chance to warm up on our closing hymn by putting it in as our opening hymn. So we're going to do that again, but this time in 4-part harmony with a choir of nanas in the background. So choose your part, rise and sing as you are willing and able.
Some glad morning when this life is over, I fly away to a home on God's celestial shore. I fly away, I fly away, oh glory, I fly away. When I die, hallelujah, by and by.
Please join with me in our shared unison chalice extinguishing. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we will carry in our hearts until we are together again.
Our benediction is from Okay. It's all right. Our benediction is by the Reverend Wayne B. Arneson. It's actually number 698 in your hymnal. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. As you have done, put one hand on your heart, the other reaching out in the world as we say together, we are not alone. We are not alone. Go in peace, and may the peace and strength of this community go with you.
So not so bad, huh? We are going to have a congregational conversation in a few minutes. We're going to take about 10 minutes to have donuts and coffee or whatever it is that we want to have and come back in here. Where at the end, Jim promises to tell you something that he's never shared with anybody before. So we'll see you in 10 minutes.
Present in the Bay Area, but he's still only going to be working as part-time, so he's not going to be available day in and day out for consultations or personal support, except in emergencies. Otherwise, we will have to do much of this ourselves. And this is part of the sabbatical experience, is we want to find out where we can go as a congregation apart from the ministers. And as part of it, well, I don't know if Jim has some words he wants to say right now, or whether he's going to save them for question and answer and an in-depth part later on. All right, so let's get on to the sabbatical process. And Paul has done a lot of work on this.
So let me talk a little bit about this upcoming sabbatical, starting, I guess, in a few minutes. You know, Reverend Greg was kind enough to share with us some of his itinerary, because he's going on a trip, a journey, and leaving us behind. But the question is, are we really just left behind, or are we, in a sense, also going on a different journey? We're staying behind, but we have a chance to try out different things. Maybe we can climb out of that rut that he talked about some. Take a look around and see if, you know, maybe there's another groove over there we'd like to try out. So what is our sabbatical process? How are we going to do this? Procedurally, what will happen is encapsulated in this wonderful brochure that Reverend Greg has prepared for us. If you have any questions at all about what will happen, when, and how, they are in this brochure. It provides answers to what is a sabbatical, what we expect to get out of it, an introduction to Reverend Jim McKinley, phone numbers for all the personnel involved, how pastoral care will be done, what the encouragement committee will do, who the board members are, who the worship associates will be throughout the sabbatical, a list of all the worship services for the next 3 months, who will be involved in them, and then a little schedule of some congregational conversations. The first is today. We'll have another on November 19th, and another at the end of the sabbatical on January 21st to, talk about what we've learned in this process. So it is a process. If you have any questions, it's in the brochure, but also ask us. Names, phone numbers, email addresses, etc. are all in here. One thing we did at the outset is a little survey, an online leadership survey, to gauge what people are thinking about their roles in the congregation and leadership roles that they might want to take up during the sabbatical. Then throughout the sabbatical, we'll have conversations like this periodically, but also we're free to get together after services at any time, talk in the Zoom chat rooms afterwards. We could meet otherwise too. There's a regular midweek discussion group that everyone is invited to all the time, and I think the sabbatical will be a topic there also. That's on Thursday mornings, I think. And today I'd like to talk about the results of the leadership survey, and then we'll have kind of a freewheeling discussion about what our itinerary should be on our sabbatical journey. Reverend Greg shared his. Maybe we should think about, well, what are the mileposts we want to pass by, and how will we do that? Let me talk a bit about the leadership survey. There were 9 questions and 20 respondents in the survey. I think that's a pretty good response, actually. The questions centered around leadership tasks and the role of the minister and our roles regularly and during the sabbatical. I'll briefly tell you what each of the questions were and summarize the responses that we got. First question was, have you been a part of a ministerial sabbatical in the past, and was it a positive or negative experience? The answers were all over the map. For some, it was a very positive experience. For others, somewhat negative. For a lot of people, kind of neutral. You know, maybe people had different expectations of the outcome. They had different experiences during the sabbatical. But people talked about the sabbatical Reverend Ben Myers had, the sabbatical Jeremy had, and there was a mixed experience for all of them. So who says we aren't diverse? You know? The second question, how accurately do you think you could list our ministers' primary responsibilities? Give it a try. Wow, now that was all over the map too. Responses ranged from, I could list them pretty well, but I won't try, to I have no clue. And I admit, I think I was more on the I have no clue side of the spectrum there. You know, I see some of the things that Reverend Greg has been doing, but certainly not all of them. So some people enumerated the minister's duties rather well, some not so, not as well. Many, like me, were kind of close to the no clue end of the spectrum. That might mean that a lot of what he does is somewhat opaque to the congregation. They only see a small portion of what goes on at any one time. But also, some of the responses had kind of a whistling in the dark attitude to them. That is, I think some were saying, I hope the minister is doing whatever it is he should be doing. Whatever that is. I can see there's a lot of resonance going on here with that attitude. The third question, are there any roles or tasks you believe are important for a community such as Mission Peak to be doing that we aren't currently doing? That is, are there important things we ought to be doing? A lot of the respondents thought that we really aren't neglecting anything. But a lot of the respondents could cite specific areas that we need to give more attention to. And they included publicity, outreach, social justice, helping with meals, small group ministry, stewardship and canvas, strategic thinking about where are we going and how do we assure our financial survivability. Many of the respondents had praise for Ariel and the direction that she has been taking us in with her entrepreneurial leadership and her focus on bringing fun back into the congregation after our COVID years. So a lot of people expressed a deep appreciation for that and the hope that continues and expands. But it was also clear from the answers, and you'll see this showing up in answers to other questions, that many of the respondents who who predominantly are taking leadership roles in the congregation, felt very stretched and wary of taking on even more. The fourth question pointed out the primary tasks that our minister does that the sabbatical minister will be continuing. But he is not continuing all the tasks that Reverend Gregg has been doing. And so the question asked, what are the next things that you think a minister needs to do that lay volunteers just can't do, that it takes a professional minister to do? And there were actually really interesting answers to this question. The answers suggested broader tasks and organizational management, more strategic thinking, getting involved with other churches and the UUA, liaisoning with those other groups, articulating vision and opportunities that maybe someone only really more at the center is capable of articulating, offering reflection on the processes that go on in the congregation, probing the meanings of our actions, getting us to probe those meanings, and reminding us and making us aware of our various covenants to each other, to the congregation, and to the broader community. I think those answers were the most interesting to me. Question 5, are there any roles or tasks that you've seen performed by Reverend Gregg or the staff that you feel could be better handled by congregational laity, or that you yourself would be interested in exploring? Quite a few tasks were enumerated that could be done by laity that Reverend Gregg is currently burdened with. Help with, the videos and charts for Sunday services, leading worship associates, more help with music direction, facilitating communication within the congregation. It seems that, no brochure is published without Reverend Gregg editing it and getting it out. So those were all tasks that people enumerated that they felt probably could be better done by laity. But not by them. that is, many respondents did mention that there are a heavy burden on already overworked volunteers, and there's just not a lot of bandwidth to take on more. Question 6, are there any roles traditionally associated with professional ministry that you feel you could offer some consistent support with? Again, the fairly consistent response was that our plate's kind of full. Question 7, are there any programs, events, committees, or processes in which you have the skills and interest to make a contribution? Again, many of the responses sort of revolved around the fact that skills and interest aren't the real challenge. Energy and bandwidth are the challenge. Even though people felt their plates were full, though, they could enumerate tasks and missions that need to be done and that they would love to be a part of, if and when they can find the time. Those included things like beefing up the encouragement committee, participating in music, seeking greater membership, lay-led sermons, worship, religious education, supporting the black and white auction, and supporting Ariel in all the work that she is doing in generating multi-generational events. The penultimate question, how would you like to be part of the learning process during the sabbatical? Are you able to be part of the monthly conversations about our shared ministry at Mission Peak? They aren't really monthly, but we're going to aim for frequent conversations, and we have 3 scheduled. Again, there was more interest expressed than availability. Some were already overburdened. There was some confusion as to when we'll have conversations. So we'd like to kick that off today and get that process going and clarify that. The final question, are there any concerns you'd like to share about the upcoming transition and the role of the sabbatical minister or the role of the congregation during the sabbatical? A lot of respondents had no concerns. They said, oh, well, it's 3 months long, we'll get through this. We'll survive, it's no big deal. Some expressed fear that attendance may drop off or that commitment may decline without Reverend Greg's cattle prod, I guess. Some viewed this as an opportunity for genuine introspection and contemplation and are embracing it with a spirit of adventure. So again, we had a full spectrum there. So those were the results of our leadership survey administered over the past few weeks. We had 20 respondents. And I thank them all. Many are here for such thoughtful and insightful responses. We have a lot to learn from this survey. So now we'd like to try to have a freewheeling discussion. And we will bring in our in-person people, but also our Zoom people as much as we're able to.
Yeah, my hope for the Zoom audience is that they can write their questions in the chat, and hopefully that will be sufficient. Unless they feel a very strong need to speak, let's use the chat. And
that's great. So please, our Zoom attendees, write your questions in the chat or your comments in the chat, concerns, hopes, dreams, whatever you have. And this discussion now will be led by Alan. Our topics are these. What are our anxieties? What are our concerns? What does a successful sabbatical look like? What is it we really hope to get out of the sabbatical? And then, how do we attain those hopes? What do we actually do if we want to attain those hopes? Are there sites that we want to visit in our itinerary? If we're taking a journey, as Reverend Greg is taking a journey, what do we want to see? What do we want to try out? Do we want this to be any different? Or do we want to just, sort of sleep through it? It's an opportunity for either one.
I may need to get cues if somebody actually enters something in the chat. So,
Steve will let you know if there's something in the chat. You can be the microphone walker.
Anyway, I am one who does remember the sabbatical that Jeremy took. And although I don't think the congregation had any problem with the sabbatical minister we had, I think that when Jeremy came back, though, the paths had diverged, and he was no longer, right? I need to be closer. Is that what the? All right, I need to be shorter, maybe. All right, Jay.
Remind us who the sabbatical minister was for Jeremy?
Was Sonia? Is that right? Sonia Sikorsky. Yeah, she was here half-time. She was not full-time, and she shared a pulpit with another church in the foothills. So, I mean, she had half-time up there and half-time here. So she was less involved, I think, in the day-to-day activities. But what I remember is that Jeremy was quite disconnected and not really he was all ready to move on when he came back. And that, of course, part of the fix for that is to have the 3-month sabbatical instead of a 6-month sabbatical, because that means that we will not have forgotten him and he will not have forgotten us. The first question about what are our anxieties and concerns. Does anybody have any questions regarding that?
I'm just thinking of Reverend Greg.
Is the microphone on?
Hello? Oh, okay. Is Reverend Greg here? Yes. Oh, okay. Well, I guess my concern is where he's going, and will we have any news of what's going on with Reverend Greg when he's gone, or is he kind of unplugged?
Well, there will be 3 people who will be able to contact Reverend Greg. I don't believe that he'll be checking in any way, although he might report to one of those 3 people. The 3 people are the president of the congregation. That's Beth, yes, and the church secretary Sandra, and Barbara as community minister.
My understanding is that Reverend Greg would like to be informed if an earthquake thoroughly destroys the church.
He also wants
or maybe
to be
not.
informed. He also wants to be informed if anybody passes away, because he does consider that part of his responsibility.
Or if anybody comes back from the dead.
The people online could not hear that.
Oh.
Yes, Reverend Greg would like to be informed during a sabbatical if anyone passes away or if anyone returns from the dead. Other than that, perhaps no communication.
In answer to the, the question at hand, I have anxieties that our esteemed Reverend is going into potentially a war zone. I'm sure he's more aware of that than I am, but I'm concerned about that. I'm also hopeful that both the congregation and he will grow during this time, and then we'll come back invigorated and ready to continue our mission. Hopeful.
So I guess just kind of, I guess it's kind of a concern that, and it's less of a concern because it's only 3 months and not 6, but a lot happens in 3 months in people's lives and the lives of a community in terms of departures due to death, departures with people moving. So there's that side of it. And then there's also the concern about attracting new members and whether new people coming in will feel comfortable making a commitment to a community when they have not had an opportunity to interact with the minister. So there's that.
That's a concern that I think.
I won't respond to their concern, but that's something, if you have somebody who you feel needs to be in touch with the minister, or you think that would benefit, like a newcomer like that, it'd be real easy to be in touch with them myself. So in some way, we could definitely figure that out. But that doesn't address what you're saying. It just says we'll be here to at least ameliorate it in the ways we can.
Speaking on behalf of the membership committee, we often will tell visitors we have our minister is on sabbatical, which can actually be a positive thing to show how we care for our ministers. And then also, but we've got this great sabbatical minister who is working with us. And then it gives us an opportunity to be sure to invite them to return when Greg comes back.
Did Terry have your hand up?
Okay, my greatest fear is really for Greg's safety. And I'm dealing with the no news is good news plan, because that's what I assume we're doing. And that is going to have to be a spiritual path for me to follow, knowing that if we don't hear from you, you're safe.
And you can always take comfort in knowing that if somebody new comes, or if somebody here dear to us leaves, that Reverend Jim will give them a rock. And it will tide them over for a while.
Start a rock soup if you get hungry.
Stone soup. Is everybody ready to move on to the next topic, which was?
We do have an online question. Could you bring the microphone over, please?
That's Paula Nudie, Paula Nudie I'd be more, let's see, I'm having trouble reading it. Oh, that I'd be more comfortable that in his absence, we don't have major organizational change and not revamping our culture in his absence. And I am going to let them unmute, and I am going to
Okay, we're having some computer problems here. Can you hear me?
Oh, crap. I unmuted.
Trying to fix this.
Okay, now I think I've unmuted the right computer. Go ahead, Nudie.
Okay, yeah. Opening up all of the procedures and, basically our culture to change while Greg is gone seems ill-advised, since, he is our primary guru in this area, and I'm not really comfortable doing that. And now the question is, could you hear me say that? Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Joe.
With deep love and respect for Paula Nudie and everybody else who has that very common sense kind of response, I want to say that the last thing that I would like to hear from the congregation while I'm away is, we can't change anything while Reverend Greg is gone, because that's the whole point of what you're trying to do. Just change it for the better, right? And it's going to be your judgment, your common sense. This is your congregation. I serve you, right? So when I come back, you can just share the news of what we did and why we did it, and we'll adjust. If you change and I change, then it's a really deep, rich kind of conversation when I come back. It's how do we bring that change together, right? So, but don't stop and say, well, nobody wears a wristband that says, what would Greg do? Just use your best judgment and do it in love, and I think it'll work out.
If he's really offended by the change, he'll just change it back. So,
And I think from my perspective, a part of it is, it's really to hold the conversations and form the sense of what you'd like to do and change. In other words, what differences, or kind of as a restart, you're not implementing them in the way in Greg's absence. It's like, but it's doing that. It's only 3 months, folks. But as I say, only 3 months, it's 3 months where we have a real chance to look at what a reset button in many ways might look like, because you've got different space now and to look at it. So I think those fears are there, because who wants to do that? And then there's the reality of, it'll be organic, but let's be organic in a way that moves us forward into the green. Does that make sense? Yeah, kind of thing. I mean, heck, it's the holiday season. I mean, there are already people who tell you, I can't, my calendar's too full. But somewhere you've said, that's okay, because we're going to commit to this new space, this opportunity, and we're going to take advantage of this opportunity that's been put in front of you and structured so well. I've never been around a congregation where the minister has prepared you so well for a sabbatical.
Okay, I'm going to start by saying, do I contradict myself? Well, okay, then I contradict myself. I contain multitudes. But I think of this as an exercise in faith. And what faith has become to me is a reminder to myself that I'm adaptable, that we're adaptable, and that come what may, we'll figure it out. We'll change while Greg is gone. He'll change. And we love each other, and we'll figure it out when he comes back. And that's what faith is to me.
So we've certainly been delving into the second, third, and fourth questions. We're on, I guess they're not posted up there anymore, but we can do that. Yeah, okay. I've got it on paper here, but that doesn't show me what's up there. It's not what everybody else is seeing. In my perspective, what we are trying to do when Greg is on sabbatical is to figure out who we are as a congregation that survives and grows on our own, apart from Greg's ministry. Churches are so often identified as the church that belongs to the minister. And what we are is the church belongs to ourselves, and the minister serves us. And if we find that things that Greg did are not really, the things that Jim does that serve us better than what Greg did, then we should let Greg know when he gets back that there were things that we liked better. Although it is hard to know necessarily what the alternatives are to the way things are.
I'm going to offer an analogy. My daughter Catherine grew up in this church, along with the children of some other members. She only went to this church until, well, except for OWL and all the other bridging programs and things that she went to, and went to GA. So she was exposed to other congregations and other UU rituals. But when she was at university, which was in Long Beach, I went to visit her one time and made her get up on a Sunday morning and go to the UU congregation, which is just outside the campus. And when they did the chalice lighting, they finished the chalice lighting, and she whispered to me, "They did it wrong." Because Reverend Jim, years ago, our congregation chose a chalice lighting that we could say with our children. It came out of one of the UU children's curriculums, and it was part of the ritual of us being in community with our children. But I said, no, it wasn't wrong. It was just different. It was the only time she went to church when she was at university.
Well, that's one more time than our kids went after they left.
Hi. So I'm not sure we've talked very much about number 4. What should we do to attain those hopes? What is the itinerary of our sabbatical journey? And I think that I'm sort of left wondering, and want to ask whether people have some concrete or maybe not so concrete ethereal ideas about what we should be doing and what is the itinerary, because I'm really kind of not sure how to bring about the kind of journey that we're being encouraged to walk.
I think that's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. I think that answer is something that will evolve through these conversations.
The road in the story, this in the service, is the road goes on.
Yeah, the road goes on. How we will follow it is up to us. There was some concern about whether there'll be too much change. I think it'll take a lot of effort just to even stay static. Reverend Greg does a lot of things that won't be done in the next few months unless someone steps up to do some of them. In doing that, maybe we'll learn better what sorts of tasks a minister should do and what sorts of tasks a laity should do. So that's sort of my hope. I view this as a time of contemplation and reassessment of what we want our roles to be within the congregation. But I don't see any huge changes coming out of that. I see it as a time of education for ourselves, so that maybe at the end of it, we can decide if we want to be on a slightly different path. Maybe we are in some ruts, and maybe we have an opportunity to get out of those now. It's my perspective on it, but I don't know how to attain that. I don't know what our itinerary should be. That's for us to decide collectively.
I was wondering if either of the ministers might want to weigh in on what they think we should be doing to attain the hopes, what our itinerary should be.
Greg said, go ahead, you weigh in. I don't know, I just got here. There's a part of that, but it's 3 months, and your question was excellent. What is the structure in those 3 months? I don't know, but simply in some ways, I know that, like, if you look at what Greg does in the detail to keep this congregation running and functioning at this high level, takes up a lot of time, and it's very real. You have one of the most efficient, experienced, learned ministers in the Unitarian Universalist Association right here, who knows more about organizational structure and congregational function than just about anybody else. And you have him, that's not friend speaking, that's colleague appreciation. And when you list the things you want to do, if you drew circles of what as a congregation, and that's what I think, that you are your wishes, not only your wishes, but your hopes for this play group to move forward into, or be part of, or to feel more of. And you drew those out, and then you looked at what Greg does at this point, and then you ask yourself as a small congregation, how does, when we bring in our resources and our time and our connections of passion and joy that bring us here, that's the real piece. I mean, you don't come here to work, you come here because this has meaning and helps your lives. How does that all fit together? How do we look, it's not how do we change it so much, it may, but how does it fit together well in this space? I was just saying to Greg, there's a big question about, as a sabbatical minister, you've hired me for, it's essentially, you look at it as third time. But a big part of that third time, you have to remember, is that I already have, although I didn't, but I already have the services planned. So that's, you're saying, rather than pay for a minister to spend that time, which you do. You're asking for that time. You're saying, I come in and then my hours are just on top of that. So there are boundaries that have to be recognized within that. At the same time, I want to be here, particularly to help be present with you as you try to do this work. It's only 3 months, you know? And your question of, okay, 3 months, but we're a committee of the whole, how the heck do you pull this together? You know, you can tell us something, but then how do you get it out of us? I don't know. One of the things I would offer, I'm here on Sundays. The Sundays I do worship. That's here. And I'll go back and collapse or, you know, do something else. It's a Sunday. But if we wanted to hold these conversations and try to explore and try to give some particular frame to some of these things and voice, I would be very willing to do that and participate in those. And if we did that on a regular basis, and you actually went home and looked inside you, not to what you want more of, I mean, that can be a part of it, but also to what you want to not give, but how you want to participate and contribute, you know? And then what feeds your life? Ask those questions. Again, it's that play group understanding of, you know the importance, you know it's important in your life. How do you fit it into this world that doesn't support any of this at all? If you look at how your lives are, you're carving this space out. So that's a reality too. And then you ask how these things fit together. And I'm not saying you'll come up with answers, but it's 3 months. And if you begin doing it, I mean, I can tell you in my retirement what I've done, and it's been 4 years, you know, but I was intentional about it to move into that new space. And you have an opportunity right now, post-COVID, sabbatical, reset button, everything, to just use this space to kind of look at. And it's not onerous, it's an opportunity. And it's not frightening, it's an opportunity. It's a real gift. So how do you take this gift and move it forward? If you don't, you don't. But how do you create a structure that helps you do that, you know, or something to do it? And I'm willing to help with that within the bounds of what I'm asked to do. Because I mean, you're a volunteer organization that hires a minister, and yeah, anyway, I can go on for that. I won't. I've said what I need to say. Thanks.
I'm fearing that we might be making too much of this. we're really well prepared. You're really great people. I will continue to be a great person somewhere else. But you know, I would just give you as a congregation the same advice that I'd give Jim as the person who will be here caring for you, and that's just, you know, do 3 things. Show up, listen to each other, and love each other. Beyond that, it's just details. And you know, I'm quite confident that you'll sort all of that stuff out.
This is Steve. We have 2 that I'm going to read from chat. I feel that change should be for a purpose rather than just for change. Some goals require consistent long-term effort to achieve, which means no arbitrary change in the process. I see our current big needs as growth and as integrating the Zoom and in-person portion of the of the congregation.
Who was that, Steve?
Just a second. I scrolled too fast. As growth and as in integrating the Zoom and in-person portions of the congregation, I will work in these, Paul. And then a second one from Julie. I hope that we will be the best, most loving, accepting, and most supportive members we can be while Reverend Greg is away. This is what we do. I hope we can be these members that we are. Reverend Greg has made a difference in my life. While I don't know Reverend Jim well, I know that we are being held in love and support. And that was all online.
Are we waving, or are we?
I just had a quick logistical question as far as if people can't come to like the first conversation, then will like a synopsis or something be put in like Week on the Peak or something so that people will find out like, oh, these were some of the topics that were discussed, so people are kept informed?
That's a great idea. We'll try that.
All right. People are starting to drift away. I would like to have an opportunity for us to ask questions about Reverend Jim himself and learn a little bit more about his life and his thoughts. My first question I had was, is there a story behind the stole you wore this morning?
Yeah, it was made for me by a microphone. I should know that. Question was about my stole. It was made by a congregant, and it just incorporates, and it's wonderful fabric art, and I love it. And that's it. Yeah.
So I'm opening it up to any questions about Reverend Jim.
Well, you came a long way to be out here with us, so I'm curious about where here is, because the Bay Area is big and, you know, just, and hard to afford. So have you found a place to live, I guess is the bottom line? He says he has. Are you in Fremont or Hayward? Okay.
We were promised Reverend Jim would tell us the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to him.
Something he's never told anybody before.
Oh, something he's never told anyone before.
I'm going to dodge this question. It wasn't the most embarrassing. It was something I never said before. No, told anybody before. I'll tell you something that I did yesterday that was very vulnerable, okay? It's sort of like inviting somebody into your house if you're a hoarder, for example. I'm not, but my house, I have company and stuff, but I feel that way. I've never tackled technology at the level beyond typing, my sermons and doing stuff that I needed to do. I'm overstating that a bit, but I learn it as I need it, and sort of as I'm drugged into it, I've made conscious decisions. I still prefer to, I haven't said this out loud, but to use a yellow legal pad to take notes and write on. And so oh, thank you. Well, this is it. So I handed Greg my computer. He was going, well, why do you have this? And what is this? And why do you do that? And he just goes, you take this off and do that. And anyway, just handed somebody my computer to go, look at this. When you're a technology person. And the other thing I've experienced, Bob's not here, but Graham's here, and everybody has been, and Greg, they're just willing to go, oh yeah, and then you click this and you do that, you move this, and this functions this way. And I was beating myself up for not learning that. But the switch is, I just got to own it, and ask for help. And it was not only ask for help, I was being offered help. And what I'm sharing is that move, it actually happened yesterday, that move into feeling different from even being internally defensive about it to, okay, this is me, and putting it out there and having you guys go, okay, we'll help you. And that's going to happen with the services too, I'm learning, I'm trying, it'll be good, but it won't be what Greg does. And that's part of the point, even around that. So I hadn't shared that with anybody. I was kind of keeping that in my own inner head there. But yeah, that beats the other options.
Do we have other questions?
I have a real simple logistics question, and that is, how are we contacting the minister at this point? Is it, if we send an email to minister at MPUC, who does it go to?
My address they've given me is revjim@mpuuc.org. Steve Walcave set that up for me.
If you send a message to minister@mpuc.org, you're going to get an automatic reply, which will have Reverend Jim's email on it.
See? That's what I'm talking about.
And not to undermine how much I love you all, but at this point, you guys are all cutting into my sabbatical. So,
we got this.
But I have one final question. I want to thank you for being here, Reverend Jim.
Thank you.
But I'd like to know what your hope for the sabbatical is. And is there any way that we as a congregation can make your life more pleasant while you're here?
Well, I think the answer, as somebody said, besides the technology, I think that's the main thing, is that's the growing edge there. How you can make it more pleasant. Don't tiptoe around me. In other words, if you have some needs, you've heard the boundaries and the structure, but also trust me to establish those and work with them. I think my hopes for it, I felt it this morning, are to move me back into this space of our endeavor, our worship, the meaning, the connection, yeah, I mean, in my congregation, they had an interim, and that meant that, and the interim chose that I was not to be in contact with the congregation. And then their search failed, and they got a contract minister, and that contract minister pushed the reset button on that time restraint. So I haven't been back in a congregation now except to do some guest stuff, but as worshiper for 4 years. So I think being here, being able to be your minister in this way, but explore what really brought me into ministry and what means a lot to me at the same time that I'm helping you navigate this space is what my hopes are for. And then I do hope to find time to go to the coast and paddleboard surf. So that's part of it. Thank you all. I mean, it's really great to be here.
Thank you, Reverend Jim. And thank everyone for attending today. Thank everyone on Zoom who's stuck around this long. I do have some closing words. We always have some closing words. These words are from Shams, who was a 13th century Persian mystic, mentor and beloved friend of Rumi. And he says, "East, west, south, or north makes little difference. No matter what your destination, just be sure to make every journey a journey within. If you travel within, you'll travel the whole wide world and beyond." Thank you very much.